Gentlemen, the truth is, she's been hiding something from you, and it's right in front of your face. What if I told you that these 10 hidden signals are screaming she's cheating, but most men miss them? These aren't the obvious signs like lipstick on a shirt or a late night out. No, this is the stuff that flies under the radar, and by the time you spot it, it's already too late. If you want to avoid the heartache, hit subscribe, like this video, and drop your city in the comments. Let's see where you're watching from, and let's uncover the truth together. Signal 1. The sudden too busy. She's everywhere but with you. You've probably started to notice that she's suddenly too busy for you. It begins innocently enough with the usual, "I've had a crazy week at work," or "I'm just really tired." But it doesn't stop there. These excuses start piling up. Weekends that used to be spent together are now filled with plans she doesn't want to explain. Her phone is constantly ringing, but when you ask her what's going on, she brushes it off with a half-hearted, "Nothing important." Here's the kicker: she's no longer available for anything you plan, but she somehow has time for everything else. Dinner together becomes a rarity. She's suddenly meeting with friends, working late, or spending time on personal projects. When she's home, she seems distant, like her mind is elsewhere, even if her body is physically in the room with you. And when you ask, she gets defensive, claiming you're being too clingy or that you're not giving her enough space. The key thing to remember here is that when a woman starts using "too busy" as a shield, it's usually a cover for something bigger. She's not just overwhelmed, she's carving out space for someone else, and she's using this busyness to give herself the emotional detachment she needs to make the move. But what's even more unsettling is that it's not just the excuses that should raise red flags. It's how she reacts when you express concern. Her defensiveness, her irritation, and her refusal to explain her whereabouts are all signs that she's already emotionally checked out. And this is just the beginning. The next signal she's sending, it's going to hit you harder than you expect. Stay tuned. Signal 2. The shift in priorities. Her needs are suddenly different. Have you noticed that she's no longer interested in the things that once mattered to her? What used to be priority now seems insignificant. Things like dinner dates, watching movies together, or even just sitting down to talk no longer have the same appeal for her. In fact, the more you try to engage, the more she pulls away, claiming she needs me time or just wants to be left alone for a bit. But the real red flag? The things she used to love, things that were your special moments, are now dismissed with a shrug. You suggest going on a weekend getaway, but she responds with, "I don't know, I'm just not feeling it." Or maybe she's more excited about spending time with her friends than with you. The simple things that used to keep the relationship alive are being replaced by her focus on things that have nothing to do with you. What's happening is that her emotional investment in the relationship is fading. She's no longer seeking the bond you once shared. Instead, she's seeking excitement elsewhere. She'll claim it's just a phase, that she's going through something, but deep down, you know that these shifts aren't a temporary dip. They're a signal that something's wrong. Her priorities have changed, and you're no longer at the top of the list. You might start wondering if you're just imagining things, but this isn't your imagination. This is the slow, quiet unraveling of the emotional intimacy you once had. Her attention is drifting, and the gap is widening. And this shift in priorities, it's not just a phase, it's part of a bigger shift. What's coming next is even more subtle, but just as damaging. Stay with me. This next signal will leave you questioning everything. Signal 3. The secretive online behavior. She's hiding her digital life. The signs are becoming clearer now, and the next one is harder to ignore, her online behavior. What used to be an open book between the two of you is now a locked door. Her phone is suddenly glued to her hand, and when you ask about it, she becomes defensive or brushes it off with a, "I'm just checking emails" excuse. The most telling shift, she's acting strangely protective of her digital life. Where she used to leave her phone lying around, Now it's always in her pocket or face down on the table. If you ask to borrow it for a second, she hesitates, then quickly locks it with a password. She never used to be this secretive. You start noticing how her social media activity becomes more selective. She's posting more cryptic statuses, interacting with people you don't know, and leaving out the details you once shared together. Her messages have become shorter and more detached. When you ask who she's texting, her response is often, just work or nothing important. But here's the thing. The change in her online behavior isn't a coincidence. It's a shield. She's creating a digital space that only she controls, a world where you don't have access, a space for someone else to be a part of. The worst part, she'll still tell you there's nothing going on. She'll brush off your concerns as paranoia or insecurities. But the truth is, this secrecy isn't about protecting her privacy. It's about hiding something. And this digital cloak, it's only the tip of the iceberg. The next signal is even more subtle and even harder to spot. Stay with me, because this next one might just be the wake-up call you've been missing. Signal 4. The disappearing act. She's unreachable for long periods. It's happening again. The sudden, unexplained stretches of time when she's completely unreachable. At first, you write it off. She's probably busy, or maybe she's just caught up in something. But when this becomes a regular pattern, you start to wonder, where exactly is she going, and why can't you get in touch? Calls go straight to voicemail, texts are ignored, or worse, she responds hours later with something vague like, sorry, I was in a meeting, or I was out with a friend. You ask her about her day, and the details are sketchy. There are holes in her story that don't quite add up. The worst part? She doesn't seem at all concerned about the fact that you're left in the dark. In fact, she becomes defensive when you ask about it, as if you're overreacting. I don't need to report to you, she might say, or you're acting paranoid. The missing time doesn't have to be a whole day. It's the hours here and there, when you can't get a clear answer on where she was or who she was with. And it's not just the physical absence that's unsettling. It's the emotional distance that comes with it. She's no longer as invested in the communication between you. You can feel her pulling away, little by little, as she creates this space for herself, all while you're left trying to piece together the puzzle. And this disappearing act? It's no coincidence. It's all part of a bigger picture she's crafting. But the real kicker, it's not just the disappearing time, it's what she's doing during those hours that you don't know about. Keep watching. This next signal will expose everything. Signal 5. The overcompensating compliment. She's suddenly overly sweet. Something doesn't feel quite right when she starts complimenting you, constantly, excessively, almost to the point where it feels rehearsed. At first, it's flattering. She tells you how great you look, how smart you are, or how much she appreciates you. But then, the compliments become too much. It's like she's trying to convince you of something, or perhaps even herself. You notice the shift. She starts praising you for little things that never mattered before. I love how strong you are, or I'm so lucky to have a man like you. While this might sound sweet, it feels a bit out of place. It's as if she's trying to make you feel special, but in a way that doesn't quite match her usual tone. It starts to feel less like genuine affection and more like an act. The compliments aren't just about you anymore. They're a diversion. She's trying to keep you in a positive, controlled emotional state, so you don't start questioning the cracks in the relationship. It's almost as though she's desperately trying to compensate for the distance she's been creating between you. Every time you're about to ask the tough questions, she wraps you back up in her words of praise, leaving you unsure whether to trust your instincts. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. You start to feel obligated to reciprocate, to tell her how wonderful she is too. The cycle deepens, and you're caught up in the emotional tug-of-war. Her sweetness is now a manipulation, designed to keep you distracted from what's really happening. This compliment game is just one piece of her strategy. What she does next will have you questioning every gesture she's made. Stay with me, because the next signal is the most chilling one yet. Signal 6. The decreased closeness. She's too tired for you. Have you noticed that closeness has become a rare occurrence? The connection, the affection, the bond that once seemed effortless between the two of you has now become strained, forced, and eventually non-existent. At first, she says she's just tired from work, or that she's not in the mood. But these excuses become repetitive, and the affection you once shared starts to fade into silence. She pulls away more and more, both physically and emotionally. The hugs that used to feel natural are now stiff, and the kisses that were once full of meaning now seem more like an afterthought. When you initiate, she often finds reasons to push you away. I have a headache. I'm too tired. Or maybe tomorrow. She seems to have lost interest in anything physical with you, and each attempt to bridge the gap only pushes her further. It's not just the lack of physical closeness. It's the absence of small, affectionate moments. The hand-holding during a walk, the casual touch while sitting on the couch, or even the stolen glances have all but vanished. You're beginning to feel like a stranger in her presence, as if she's already emotionally checked out, yet doesn't know how to tell you. What's more troubling is how she reacts when you try to bring it up. Instead of facing the issue head-on, she brushes it off, claiming that you're overthinking it or making a big deal out of nothing. She acts like it's just a temporary phase, but you can feel the distance growing, and it's becoming harder to ignore. This lack of closeness is a clear signal that something deeper is going on. But this isn't the most sinister part. The next trick she uses to hide her affair, it's something even harder to confront. Stay tuned. Signal 7. The overly protective friend. She's defending someone else. There's something strange happening when it comes to her friend. You know, the one who suddenly seems to be at the center of every conversation. She's always defending them, making excuses, and getting defensive when you ask about them. "Why are you so obsessed with my friends?" she snaps, or "You're just jealous for no reason." But the truth, this friend has become a shield, someone she uses to deflect your attention from the cracks in your relationship. She'll mention this friend often, talking about their deep conversations, how they get her in a way you don't. But there's something unsettling about how close she's getting to them. They're suddenly her go-to for everything: emotional support, advice, even plans. When you suggest spending more time together, she brushes it off, saying, "I just need to hang out with them." And here's where it gets worrying. When you ask simple questions, like how long she's known them, or where they've been, her answers are vague. She starts becoming increasingly defensive, almost as if she has something to hide. She'll even suggest you're paranoid or that you're overreacting, making it seem like you're the one with trust issues. The truth? This friend is probably someone she's getting emotionally invested in, and it's no longer just a friendship. It's her way of redirecting attention from her growing feelings for them, while making you feel like the outsider. And what's worse, she's already positioning them as more important in her life than you are. This shift is dangerous, but it's not even the worst part. What she does next will make you question everything you thought you knew about loyalty. Stay tuned, because the next signal is far more revealing. Signal 8. The emotional coldness. She's no longer vulnerable with you. You've probably noticed it, the way she's pulling away emotionally. The woman who used to share her deepest fears, dreams, and anxieties with you now seems completely closed off. Conversations that once felt warm and intimate now feel distant and transactional. You try to engage, to ask how she's feeling, but the answers are brief, impersonal, and lacking any real emotional depth. What's even more troubling is how she shuts you out when you need her the most. She used to comfort you during tough times, but now, when you express your concerns, she brushes them off with a quick, "I'm tired," or "I don't want to talk about it right now." You can feel the coldness in the air. She's no longer leaning on you, and the emotional connection you once had feels like a distant memory. This emotional distance isn't just a temporary phase. It's a clear sign that she's already detaching herself from you. She's no longer vulnerable with you, and the intimacy that was once built on trust and openness is now replaced by walls that feel impossible to break down. When she's faced with any emotional situation, she either withdraws completely or gives you a cold, detached response that leaves you feeling empty. It's almost as if she's mentally checked out, emotionally investing in someone else, while you're left trying to figure out what went wrong. Her inability or refusal to open up is a blatant signal that the connection you once had is fading. But what's worse, this emotional coldness is just the beginning. The next trick she uses to hide her affair will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about her. Keep watching. Signal 9. The communication breakdown. Silence becomes her weapon. It's like pulling teeth to get her to communicate with you now. What used to be easy, free-flowing conversations have turned into a one-sided effort. You're left talking to a wall, waiting for her to show any real interest in what you have to say. Her replies come hours later, if at all, and when she does respond, it's short. No follow-up questions, no curiosity about your day, and certainly no effort to connect. The silence is deafening. When you try to share something important with her, she either zones out, distracted by her phone, or gives you a response that feels more like an obligation than a genuine conversation. Even when you bring up something small that used to get her laughing, she barely cracks a smile. It's like she's already checked out mentally, and you're left clinging to a conversation that isn't coming back. This isn't just a lapse in communication, it's intentional. She's pulling away emotionally, and the silence is one of the clearest signs. At first, you may have convinced yourself that she's just busy or stressed, but this ongoing breakdown in communication is a sign that her emotional investment in you is waning. She's creating distance by refusing to engage, keeping you at arm's length. What makes this particularly painful is that you're still here, trying to make things work, while she's already mentally checked out, leaving you to wonder what happened. This silence isn't about peace or avoiding conflict. It's a strategy to make you feel ignored, unimportant, and ultimately, replaceable. And if you think the silence is bad, just wait. What she does next will shake your trust in ways you won't see coming. Stay tuned, because the next signal is even more chilling. Signal 10. The sudden self-discovery journey. She's finding herself without you. You've probably heard her talk about needing space or a break before, but this time, it's different. She's suddenly embarking on a self-discovery journey, a path that doesn't include you. Whether it's signing up for a solo trip, taking up new hobbies that don't involve you, or focusing on things she's never expressed interest in before, it's clear that she's creating a life without your presence at the center of it. This is the most troubling sign of all, because it's the moment she starts to emotionally, if not physically, detach from you. She says she needs to find herself, or focus on her own growth. But what she's really doing is carving out space for someone or something else. It's as if the relationship that once defined her identity is no longer as important, and she's searching for a new version of herself without you in the picture. This journey isn't about self-care or personal development. It's about preparing herself for the next chapter of her life, one where you may no longer play a role. She might start dressing differently, spending more time alone, or even suggesting that you're too clingy for her newly found independence. The more she pushes you away, the more it becomes apparent that she's already emotionally invested elsewhere, and this so-called self-discovery is just a cover-up for the change she's already planning. See you in the next video.